All right. All right, where you at? Where are you? There you are. Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're keeping it moving. We're keeping it moving. Keeping it moving.
Keeping it moving.
Keeping
I
it
know.
moving. That's it.
I know the feeling.
Paying bills and staying alive.
Pretty much. Pretty
much.
much.
That's it. How you been?
Good. Good. Been trying to keep up and backtrack on all the horror movies that I've missed and all the lovely fun things.
Have you had the chance to see Longlegs?
Oh yeah.
You have? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm fiending to want to watch that. Because Nicolas
Not only did
Cage.
I see it, I was a guest on someone else's podcast and we talked about it. Yeah, the Was It Good Though podcast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Had to drop the link.
Yeah.
Had to drop the hookup right there.
Yeah. And I saw it in theaters, so.
I can't beat that. I can't beat that. Jesus. He looks so I've only seen the trailers, but Nicolas Cage looks so transformed in that movie.
Like you're watching it and you kind of forget that he's in it until, like, even when he pops up, you don't immediately, like, you see the character, you don't see Nicolas Cage. Not until later on, like when he does or says something a certain way, you're like, oh, there it is. There's Nick. I got you. There it is. There it is.
I read a thing. It says that his makeup for that character is inspired by I believe his mom was a schizophrenic of some sort in his youth, and one day he had seen her with the makeup on her face and it scared him, so that inspired the look for Longlegs. And it's so crazy. Even when he talks, you really can't tell it's him. That's how you know it's good.
He transformed for this role. It was amazing. So, for all you guys joining, this is Hot Take Tuesday live on a Wednesday. I'm your host, Lisa / NXG Global Productions and Real Movie Lovers. And this is my lovely guest, Dead Lights Music. Woo woo!
It's your boy. Oh my God, I'm so happy to do this. This is therapeutic for me. It's a lot of fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I tried talking. You were right the first time, brother. I tried talking to Gover, but his schedule is just all crazy and stuff. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but we'll figure it out. Down the road, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
absolutely.
Up like a WWE fight, yo. Oh my God. But so, I saw your thing on Instagram and I really needed to ponder what was the best death I've seen in a horror movie.
Yeah.
And I pondered for a while, because I think the criteria for best death has to be either it's going to be satisfying, bad person gets what's coming to him, or it's going to be unbelievably tragic. And I did a couple of, I literally went through YouTube. I was like, let me think of all the horror things I've seen, which one really stuck with me.
Yeah.
And we ended up landing on Silent Hill. So Christabella and the churchgoers, if you guys don't know, I don't think it's the very end, but at some point throughout the movie, the main character gets infected with the darkness, and she brings it, I guess because the darkness can't go into a church, so she needed to almost be like someone that's going to sneak it in so it can get behind the defensive line. And long story short, the darkness ends up crawling out of the ground, and Alessa, I think is the name of the, I don't really want to call her a villain, but let's, for the sake of conversation, the villain literally crawls out of hell and grabs the head of this cult and prepares to shoot barbed wires into her and around her in places where the sun don't shine. I didn't want to really get too graphic there, but I'll tell you this. I sat there with my jaw open as a kid watching this. I was like, oh. Jesus. And then proceeds to tear her in half. Yeah, and proceeds to tear her in half and just slaughters this whole entire cult in this church. It's in Silent Hill. And that,
Woo!
so then they did a good job at making you hate these people. So when the death came, it was. I think that's the only time I think something gruesome and morbid as that is actually rewarding.
Okay.
So that's the one that stuck with me, where I was like, just wipe the slate clean, kill them all, and I was satisfied by the end of that movie. Yeah, that's the only way I can explain it. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Real quick, hey Jack, I see. Hey Lisa, hey Jack. So did you hear what my answer was?
What was your answer?
I'm gonna have to go with Final Destination 5. The Gymnast.
Was it the one where she's doing like the aerobics and then she ends up like landing on her neck or something?
Yeah. The Gymnast. And yeah, please, yeah. And you know why that one stood out to me? Because okay, legitimately, I cannot watch the Olympics live. I get anxiety. I have to watch.
Thing?
Yeah, I have to watch. I have to watch replays because in the replay, I know they made it out alive. Let me watch them do all these flips now. Like, because it's so beautiful, but scary to me. Like all that flipping, and I'm like, ah. So for Final Destination to take my fear and make it real, I was like, ah.
You know what? I'm there with you. I feel that, because it's just, I mean, I don't know, like I just for it to be the Olympics, like it's seared into your mind, so that's always going to be the first thing and last thing when it comes to anything like that. My thing is the ocean. Like shark attacks freak me out.
Okay.
Almost on a religious level, shark attacks freak me out. And when they do the surf, when they're doing the surf games and they're doing those contests, there's endless videos you can find of these sharks just picking surfers off, and there's these crazy stories. Like, I don't want to get too graphic, but there's a story of a mom going into the ocean to playing with her kids, and then saw that there was a shark, so she started taking the kids out, and the shark was a great white and apparently bit her in half clean. And that's a real thing that happened. That's not like a movie thing. That's not a skit. That's a real thing that happened in one of the beaches over in California. And it's just to show. It just goes to show you, like, I I love the ocean, but I have a very strange, fearful respect for it as well, because I know what's in there, and I might not swim like a seal, but I have eyes, and if the water gets funky.
I love the ocean over there. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's nice. It's cool. It's right I see you. No, I can see you from here. You look wonderful. Love it. Continue doing what you're doing.
You
over
look so pretty.
there.
Yeah, you look so pretty.
Yeah.
No, I can't do it. Barracudas can't do it. Octopus can't do it. Even manatees scare the crap out of me. Manatees are like cows. Uh, yeah, they're like cows. Dolphins apparently are notorious for being assholes. Otters are also notorious. Otters are not fluffy and friendly. Otters will kill caiman. I don't know if you know that's a thing, but they kill gator-looking shit. They just kill things. Yeah, there's a giant otter somewhere. I don't know what jungle somewhere, but they group up and they gang up and they shank and bite and kill things that are bigger than them in numbers. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, no, they can stay over there.
Yeah, over there.
I want nothing to do with it.
Over there.
Yeah, over there.
Over there.
I don't even want to smell you. I don't even want to smell you. Just stay over there. Don't come near me. What do you want to bother me for?
All right, let's get into this movie. Yes.
Let's do it.
So we're reviewing Quarantine, which this was a first time watch for me. I'd never seen it before. But
that's exciting.
And the only thing that I knew, spoiler alert, the only thing that I knew was that the cover of the movie is literally the last shot in the movie. That's the only thing that I knew. It's the only thing that I knew.
Hmm.
Um, so I was like, okay, let me see how we get here. So
So
first off, how
go
do you feel
ahead.
about quarantine?
Okay, so a little fun fact. Quarantine is actually a carbon copy of a Spanish movie called Wreck.
Oh
And
my gosh, that's what they kept mentioning it. Oh, okay. So I did a
so,
poll. I did a
hmm
poll to see. I didn't know about rec, or I would have made rec the choice
hmm
first instead of quarantine.
hmm
Why am I not? Why am I? I should not be surprised. I should not be
well,
surprised.
to be honest, you didn't miss anything, because it's a quite little carbon copy with the difference that, obviously the language is
Yeah.
different. And Rec has more religious touches and stuff, while Quarantine actually took on the biochemical hazard
Ah, the
version
biohazard.
of it. Um,
Okay.
right, but they're a carbon copy. You literally could watch Rec and Quarantine, and if it weren't for the fact that we're speaking different languages, you technically watched both movies at the same time.
Ah, okay. Because
Yeah.
I had put out a poll and someone had responded saying, well, two people had said uh rec. So I'm like, oh, maybe I should have said rec instead, but I didn't realize that they were trying to tell me. Whoopsie.
So Rec came out the year prior to Quarantine. The director was so annoyed and upset that they basically made a carbon copy, and the only thing they edited out of the script was the religious aspects of it. Um, so if you've seen Rec, Rec has sequels. Quarantine has one singular sequel, and that was dog shit. It was really bad. It was really, really bad. And the thing about Rec is, like, the idea was it was supposed to be quite literally. It's not really as much as a virus thing, but it's a cult thing with demons and stuff like that. While Quarantine is quite literally, they refer to the virus in there as the Armageddon virus. If you look at the news pamphlets at the end when they're in the villa room, um,
Yeah.
so you want to just build up to it. We'll start from the beginning and kind of just work our way through it,
Yeah, yeah,
if you want to do it like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. All right. So, let's see. A couple of things that they talk about in the movie that I'm like, oh, interesting, was one, so stop, drop, and roll is still a thing. It's still a thing. Remember, I remember being a kid and that they were drilling it in us. And I was like, oh, okay. Stop, drop, and roll. Still a
mhm.
thing. Who knew? Who knew? And the reason why Dalmatians were the mascot for the fire department is because they are the dog that gets most along with horses.
Mhm.
And I gotta be honest with you, I didn't even realize that horses and dogs had beef like that. Like, I didn't realize. So I thought these little like oddball like tidbits of information was like I found really interesting. I was like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
I like that. I don't, thank you. You teach me something and you scare me. Got it.
I know, right?
Got it.
Just cute little tidbits. And even then, I feel like that kind of is like a little detail they throw in to kind of like give you a little bit. They do such a good job at the beginning of the movie
Yeah,
at giving you a false sense. They lull you into a false sense of security,
yeah,
because the movie, if you guys haven't seen it, or for people that have seen it, is actually majority of it is very, very dark.
yeah.
Um, and the only moment where there's actually light and levity in that movie is at the beginning when you're just first meeting the fire department.
Yes, yes.
Right.
When they go into the building, immediately the lighting is already dimmed. It's already like
Hmm.
dimmed. Um, it's also a building, all the other kind of stuff. Like it was. I gotta say, when when they step into that building, you get like literally maybe a minute before it's like, oh, stuff is gonna hit the fan.
Mm,
Like literally. I was like,
mm.
yo,
It's popping off.
for real,
It's popping off.
for real.
And and the best thing about it is, I don't know if you it's not the first thing you notice up until when you actually start getting the action sequences and you start getting the jump scares and the surprises. There is no score. There's no music at all in that movie.
Right.
Think about that. And that's why it was so polarizing to sit in a theater and watch it, because that movie is carried on the back of just sound effects.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Isn't it crazy?
That is
And
so
it was,
crazy.
yeah, and every single moment of it is all Foley. It's all Foley recordings and Foley artists just doing the things that they do best, which is why, like, when the gory moments come, the gory moments are so impactful, because the sound design behind it was just so carefully constructed. Um, and
Wow.
and and even then, like we're talking about, like, yeah, you have like a moment of peace up until the first death of the movie. It is this firefighter, like, they're in this big apartment building. I'm not quite sure how many floors
Right.
there are, but you can imagine tall apartment building.
Yeah.
And the first death is this firefighter who went upstairs to check on, like, the people that live there. He ends up falling headfirst into the ground, and
So,
that's the first death of the movie.
so listen. I wanna. Okay, so I Oh, Lovely says, "Hey y'all, love the red background." Yes,
Of
yes,
course. I
yes.
honestly, like, red's my favorite color, but God bless October, because honestly, it's the mood right now. I get to justify it now.
Nice. Well, I pulled out an orange and black, Halloween for Halloween,
I
trying to.
saw, I saw.
So when they go into the room, and for you guys, we are reviewing Quarantine. Feel free to drop comments and questions. So when they're going upstairs, and the lady does what she does, and everyone has, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then the firefighter's like, I got her, and he's like tending to her on the floor, and you're like, okay, they go downstairs, la 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 la, bam. I'm like, yo, did she throw him? Or did he, like, or did she bite him and he's like shuffling and falls over? Like, what do you think?
You're trying to piece it together. I mean, in my head, it makes sense. I think he was probably shoved off by Miss Espinoza, who's the first formal infected we see.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember, there's a point in the movie where they finally they have to investigate who shoved them off. So they go upstairs and they walk into this room, and this lady comes running out, freaking out. And as they go into the room, they have this beautiful shot where they pan, the camera turns, and there's this older lady with dark eyes and just blood all over her, just standing there making these weird little grunting and growl noises.
Yeah.
And the cop is telling her, is like, Miss Espinosa, I need you to just put your hands up and get on the ground for me. And when he gets louder, she gets, like, agitated, and the scream, that weird monster-esque gurgle screech that she lets
Mm.
out. For me, when I first watched that movie as a kid, horrified me. Because it's like things were popping off, things were real. You
Yeah.
felt like you were in the room when that was happening.
Yes.
So yeah, just the movie itself, it's once you hit we end up literally going from 0 to 100 within a minute, and then
Yeah.
after that, the tension is something that when I saw in my movie theater, we were a packed movie theater. We weren't,
Ooh.
like, it didn't sell
Oh
out, but
my
we were
God.
packed.
Oh, I wish I could have done that.
People were always screaming or gasping, but in between those moments, you could hear a pin drop, because the tension is so tight all throughout that movie, because you don't know when the next pop-up is coming, or you don't know who's infected, and then there's these sounds that can either be a clue to what happens next,
Hmm.
or there's, like, inevitable danger around the corner, and you just don't know. You don't.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, the whole thing about the score is, I'm
Yeah,
still
no
thinking.
music.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
wanted
all sound design.
I wanted to try to rewatch it before, because you pick up more on a second rewatch, but I was so busy I couldn't, but I took as many notes as I could.
Mm.
So when they went into the first lady, the call, the reason for the call, when they went
Yes.
into her apartment, she's standing there and they shine the light on her, and she's like, she responds. I initially thought vampire, because I
Mm.
didn't know anything about Quarantine outside of that one fact that I told you. So I'm like, vampire? Like, I literally put in my notes.
my brother, my brother in the theater was like, "Ooh, that bitch cracked out!" Like, My brother was freaking out in the theater. He was just saying crazy things, but as it progressed, you slowly caught the feeling for, oh, this is like you. I, I'm not sure if you can call it a. I mean, technically, I guess it's a zombie movie, but it's kind
Yeah,
of weird. It's a weird gray line.
right. So I feel like, and there's still some level of science fiction with it, but I feel
Yeah.
like it is probably the closest realistic version of what zombies would would,
Mm,
would be would
yes.
be, where it's like being infected with rabies and it makes you aggressive and
Hmm.
you just like want to attack.
Hmm.
Um, so I was once I realized what it was, or not me,
Hmm.
but the guy said, I was sitting there like, what happens when a person does get rabies and it goes untreated? So then I had to Google because I was like, let me find out if we closer to a zombie apocalypse than I thought.
And what did you find? Well, that's an interesting. It's interesting you say that because I remember that um, during the time of quarantine, they were concerned about prolonged effects to humans from rabies prior to death because people become hydrophobic uh, when they contract rabies. So water is like a big no-no when you're infected. Like you can't even swallow it. Um, and then the new issue that I think is dates back to 2017, and you can look this up. The next thing that became an issue was prion disease. There's a prion disease that only currently affects deer, and it puts deer into a trance-like mindset where they actually look quite dead because their body will decay effectively as they have this prion disease, and eventually, when it decays enough, they can't function. But what the prion disease does to them, I imagine, is it just finds a way to keep spreading. So when it decays and other animals come and eat it, they also get infected by this prion disease. Um, and prion disease affects the brain. Everything is so sorry. It all happens in the brain. And they were concerned for a time that disease could eventually make a leap to humans. It hasn't yet, but they do have genuine concerns about it.
Oh, okay. Well, nice little
Yeah,
thought. Nice little comforting thought to go to sleep to tonight.
I know.
Appreciate it.
I hope
Appreciate
you
it.
love camping.
Uh, so here, okay. Here's the fun of what you said. In my notes, when I looked it up, it was said rabies causes fever, pain, inflammation, leads to brain damage, and
Mhm,
eventual death. It knows how to hide from our immune system.
mhm.
And in all caps, after that, I wrote, never going camping.
I didn't mean to ruin it
Oh,
like that, but that is
no,
the thing.
no. Listen, Jason, Friday the 13th, when I was little, he already ruined camping for me. This
Word.
solidified it. You
Got it.
know?
There's a nail in the coffin now.
Yeah,
Now we knew we weren't about it, but now we're definitely not going.
yeah,
I
yeah,
got it. I
yeah,
got it.
yeah. I made the right decision.
Oh no, you wouldn't like me. I'm one of those FOFO guys. I'm one of those fuck around and find out people.
Oh,
So if you want to go camping, we'll go. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm one of them people.
oh.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little real over here in Jersey, yo.
All right, listen, listen. I
Yeah.
want you to know
Uh-huh.
that if you ever go camping and you go missing, I hope that the search party is effective because what you're getting from me is thoughts and prayers. Thoughts
Thoughts
and
and
prayers.
prayers.
Mm-mm.
I'll think
Nah.
in my final moments before I get got by whatever monster murderers out there. I'll be like, you know what? Lisa was telling me about this. I really should have thought about this. You know, good on her for
Exactly.
looking out for me, man. Oh my God, no. We crack so many jokes when I do camping with my friends. We do so many. I have this one best friend, my girl Kira.
Okay.
She is never ever ever in this lifetime would have ever been caught dead camping.
Um,
And my other best friend, and they ended up being together. He actually managed to convince her, which by the way, a lot of people prior have tried to convince her. She says no to everyone. And finally, the right dude at the right time came with the right words and the right attitude and managed to get her to come. When I tell you, watching her be in the wilderness, because I don't care if it's a park where they give you little camping sections. Bears always walking through there, raccoons always walking through there. There's owls all about, and we're in the middle of like a very dry summer, so everything's making noise. For me, was an experience because every little thing that went creaking in the dark, she was like, "It is great, phenomenal." I would never do that to you, but you should
You
know.
you you have not made any kind of argument for camping. I need you to understand that everything you just said just made it worse. And if I really want a thrill, I will go on a roller coaster. That's what
No, you
I'll
can't.
do.
No, no, I can't. In the words of, may he rest in peace, John Panette is one of my comedic heroes. And in his words, gravity is a law. I, I obey the law. I don't do ups, I do downs. I can boogie down, wolf it down. You give me a little blackjack, I'll double down, but I don't do ups. Ups defy gravity. Gravity's a law, I obey the law. You can't get me to get on a roller coaster. I'm sorry. I don't belong up there. I'm too big to be up on a roller to
Nah,
be up on a roller coaster like that.
you said bears and raccoons. Nope, I'm good. I am so good. I am so good. So
I don't know. At least in the forest, you could predict something's gonna happen. Up on the roller coaster, even if I can predict it, you can't stop it. You put me out of control of my own autonomy. At that point, I gotta say no. I can't do it.
okay, okay. You keep your camping over there, and I will be over here at my roller coasters.
That's the sign. That's the line in the sand for us. Is that
That's the line. That's the
you
line.
could keep your roller coasters, and I'll keep my camping.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um,
That's so
so
crazy.
so when they went to their apartments, I saw there was a rat that was coming after the cameraman, and he killed the rat. Now,
Mhm.
knowing what we know, I guess with the end of the
Mhm.
movie, I'm thinking that rat was the source of the infection, and maybe got the dog and a lady.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I guess it just took a little while to show up in the dog
Well,
because
the
it
the
seemed like it was progressing faster.
yes, yes, and the rate of infection was what was getting faster, and the violent nature of the infected is what was also progressing. Um, and the thing is, they make it clear that the reason why the quarantine initially happens isn't of what happens on screen, it's what happens off screen. The dog was taken to a vet to get
Yeah,
looked at and
yeah,
given shots, and that dog eventually made its way back home. When the dog made it back home, the dog, I think, had aside from the rat, I was under the impression, I could be wrong. I definitely have to go back and rewatch it for details.
yeah,
But the quarantine happens because all of the animals at the vet became infected and violent and started attacking people.
yeah,
So when that's what triggers the authorities to be like, what's happening? They realize what's going on. They find out that the owner of this dog lives at this place, and they quarantine the whole entire apartment space.
yeah,
Um, And then after that, yeah, there's these rats that are running around, which you figure out where they come from by the end of the movie. But there are these rats that are also infected. Who the reason why he was running at the cameraman is because it's violent. So he was gonna get bit had he not actually stomped a little turd out. And quite frankly, like I don't mind rats like that, but I have a lot of friends who have big issues with those. If they came run, if they were running at my friends like that, no one would have stomped them out. It just would they would have punted it, kicked it, they would have jumped on someone else. It would have been a circus act.
Oh my. Okay, so um, there was okay. So some years ago, when they were building like a new like CVS,
Mhm.
like literally on the corner of our street. So that field was used to be just an open field, and now you're building on it. It They disturbed the wildlife there, and we ended up we ended up getting like a mouse in the house, and I, I remember like at one point the mouse was like upstairs and I was downstairs, and I think who was it? It was my mother. I think my mother was upstairs, and I had a frying pan at the bottom of the stairs, and she's like, be ready if it runs your way. I'm like, uh-huh.
Oh hell,
So,
whack,
so,
whack the rat.
so, so she, it ran out, and she manages to take the broom and to like knock it, and it fell down the stairs. And I guess that couple seconds of being, like, I know, dizzy or zonked out, whatever the rat was going through, was enough time for me to go like that. And I got him, and it was my first time ever, and I was just like, oh, that was squishy. Like, because
Oh my.
like, I, I, I know, but like, I'm only ever, okay, the only things I've ever killed before that were like, like a bug or something, like you stomp a bug, or spider or an ant. Like it's crunchy. I'm used to crunchy. Okay, I've
Yeah,
never
I
been
understand.
killed, but I'm used to crunchy. That was like squish. Ah!
You can't psychologically you can't relate to something crunchy, so you don't feel as bad for it.
Yes,
You kill something that's as close to you as possible is a whole other ball
yeah,
game. But it's just I can only imagine that you went like this. I can't get the metal set bing, like out of my that poor little mouse found herself in the wrong house at the wrong time.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry for you. You're the one that had to do it. And you're telling me the story. I'm laughing because it's not funny, but at the same time, because of the taboo of, I guess, taking the life of some other thing, in my head is like funny in a
Yeah,
messed up way. I'm sorry.
yeah,
It is what it is. It's a
yeah,
tragic thing, but necessary at the same time because they are pests.
yeah. So needless to say, when he stomped it and you saw the, I did have a flashback. I was like, oh,
I had my Vietnam flashback. So
absolutely,
in
absolutely.
that apartment scene, after he stomps that rat, I think they had just I might get it I might be getting my timeline messed up because Miss Espinosa was officially the first confirmed infected and the first one killed because the cop ended up shooting her when she lunged at
Yeah,
him. I
yeah,
think right after that, we see the rat running, like scurrying around in her bedroom and then runs at the camera guy and he stomps it
yeah,
out.
yeah.
And then after that, there's this scene where there's this lady, I guess, in another apartment. It's kind of like in a daze.
Yes.
And that scene for me affected me so deeply because she's all right one moment, they move her out, whatever, they go to the next room to look at it, the lights go out, like people start panicking and you can see her silhouette and her crazy breathing in the dark.
Yes.
And it's all happening, by the way, she's not even in frame yet. It's like happening in the background. And
Mm-hmm.
that for me was like I felt that trouble was coming, but I couldn't have foreseen that it was really her. I thought it was like another infected. And she comes in the room, they put the camera up, they turn on the camera light, and there's this close-up shot of her with these red eyes and her messed up teeth, and she just starts screeching at the camera and just starts attacking people. Messed me up so bad. It's
And,
freaky.
and she's the one that he was that was getting like hit in the face with the camera, right? To get like, yeah,
Yeah,
that was.
I can't laugh. I shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't laugh, but
No, it's okay. It's like nervous laughter. Laughter. Like I get it. I
yeah.
get it.
Well, I'm not sure
Well,
if it's that. I mean, you don't have
entertained.
you
You're allowed
don't
to be
gotta.
entertained.
Yeah, you don't try to defend me, honey. It is what it is. I have a couple screws loose, but what I'm trying to say is like there's this bit where he starts that they literally are taking this camera and smashing this lady in the face with it, and she's got these zombie groans and growls happening for every time they hit her. And it's just one of those things where it's like, how crazy is it that we're watching as an audience member? This lens is being used as a hammer to put this lady out
Yes.
of her misery. And I remember in the theater, everyone's freaking out. There's this lady like hyperventilating in the corner of the room, like in our theater. Like panicked at what's going on. And me and my friends, my douche friends, are all there, and they start snickering and giggling because of all the sounds that are going into this one scene where literally the frame just starts doing this in your face. And
Yes.
it's terrible. But it affected me so deeply because it's like what the movie also reminds you of is like everyone thinks they're ready for an emergency. Everyone thinks they're going to be prepared to act in a moment of desperation, and of fear. And the reality is no. You could be the baddest dude or baddest chick I know, and quite frankly, when things happen, especially you know, like, and if you're in the middle of a earthquake, if you're in the middle
Yeah.
of tornado, hurricane, not everyone's prepared to take that on because it's a
No.
real threat. That's a real thing happening in front of you
Yeah.
that is out of your control, and you have to have a fairly hard mind to be able to shut that off you just need a moment of calm to be able to be like, hey, we gotta go, or let's go
Yeah.
hide over here. So that movie literally dishes out to you what it is to be quite literally helpless. Um, and it starts to really rev up when they're done in those first initial rooms because when they go downstairs to try to leave, they realize that they're being locked in.
Yeah. So, okay, I I have rewind. I watched it through. I have rewinded to the very beginning. When they first got there, just to confirm. Yeah, when they pull up to the building, it's like one cop car, one person walking down the street. Like it's nothing.
Yeah,
Then
empty.
they get in, it's empty. They get in there, stuff is happening. All of a sudden, all these cop cars are outside, this and that, and
Yeah.
it was very fast,
They had
very
like
fast.
two whole battalions of guys outside, and the cops are telling you you can't leave. They're putting drapes over everything, and then finally the CDC responds. Um, and I think that's when things really you start to get a measure for how dire the situation is because the CDC is coming in to take samples.
Yeah,
Um, and that's when I don't know if you peeped it. There's a point where they had put the camera down. CDC guy is about to go take a sample, and you see there's this little girl in the movie who, by the way, they hint that she's a little sick and a little feverish, and what they
yeah,
think happened is that her dog was the one that infected her initially. There's a little girl in the
yeah,
movie, and she's infected.
yeah.
And they give you a little red herring. Oh, it's just a fever, it's a cold, whatever. And then eventually, like in the background, while we're about to get the transition from the lobby into this room where they're going to conduct this biopsy, the little girl is upstairs on the first floor scurrying around. So that's why after the biopsy scene, that's why the mom is freaking out about this little girl because that's why she's telling them to stay away from her. She's telling her to go run away and stuff
Oh,
because I think
yeah,
the mom,
yeah,
yeah, that's when everything kicks off. You realize this girl's
yeah.
missing, and it's because she's. I think they caught the vibe. The mom realized what was happening with her and basically told her like go. But she's so haunting in the background. The shot. And by the way, not a lot of these things that happen when they're introducing these monsters and all the things that happen, they're not obvious. They do a good job at showing you, but if you're not like literally, if the movie forces you to watch literally all the four corners of the screen, because there's so much storytelling happening behind
Oh
these characters.
my gosh, I am going to literally rewatch this movie. What time is it? I will try to rewatch it tonight because I want to kind of like really take a look at that. And
Yeah.
so, okay, here's what I found funny about the little girl. So by this time, we know they know things are not good. People are
Mhm.
getting infected, and the little girl is like attacks her mom and runs away. And I think the CDC guys here go give her this. Nah, nah, dude.
Nah.
She attacked her mama. Mm-mm. I'm staying right here. You can go get her. Nah. She attacked her mama, the one who raised her. Who am I?
Her mom, her mom, and the way that that lady's acting was so unbelievably good because she's screaming. She's like Brianna. The way she's screaming her daughter's name, Brianna,
Mm-hmm.
telling her to run away and hide, and it's echoing all throughout, even when they're going upstairs to find her.
Yeah.
It for me was unsettling because it's like, dude, like her echo just shows you just how empty or devoid of life this apartment currently is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even then, like that guy gave them like the antidote. The issue is in that situation, right? Like circumstantially, had you just been a visitor, I agree with you 100%. This isn't my dog. I have no dog in this fight. I'm staying right here or wherever it's safest. In their circumstance, because she's like a news reporter and all this other stuff. The reason why they take you for this ride is because she has this sense of like, oh, the people need to know what's happening, and
Oh
this is the only way they're going to figure it out. Blah 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 blah. So you are a unwilling recipient of this adventure that she's on to discover what's happening here.
Oh yeah, no. I found
And
myself yelling at the screen. No, why are we going? No, stay here. Stay here. Now, the other side of that is me as a mom. If this is my only daughter and I don't have any other kids, which spoiler alert, I have 5 kids and my oldest is named Brianna, so I thought it was funny. So if I only have Brianna, no other kids to live for, oh, I guess we both gonna be zombies then because I'm not letting her go. I as a
yeah,
mom, we're gonna be zombies. I'm not letting her go. And on the flip side, if I'm watching that, oh, that's your daughter. Y'all got it. Deuces. You know what I'm saying? So
you
that's
better
how.
make this baby go get. You better let this lady go get her damn baby. I'm not going over there with no syringe. I'm not doing nothing. I'm looking
Yeah,
for her
I'm
with
comforting
flashlights.
her. Go upstairs. We good. We
Mm,
good. Good.
that's your
Uncuff her. Let her
child.
go upstairs.
That's your child. Go get her.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, let's just say, sir. Let's say, all right. So let's reverse the roles. Instead of
Yeah.
just being like a visitor of this place, let's say you end up being one of the fire department. Uh, you know, um, you're either one of the cops or you're one of the firemen. At that
Yeah.
point, it's like we gotta go get this girl.
I'm so glad that you said that. I don't know if you had a chance. I don't know if you had a chance to check out my hot take.
I did, and I laughed throughout the whole entire thing. You were just saying no to all these government jobs. You were just saying no left and right. You're like, these are the reasons why I'll never be a cop. Another good reason why I'll never be in the fire department. It's like, you know what? Like, I sympathize, but at the same time, there's some pretty good jobs you're putting down.
Well, no, at the end, I said, I respect these jobs. We need these jobs. I
No,
just know that
100%.
I'm not the person you want in this position. That's what I was saying.
Can't be me. It couldn't be me. Couldn't be me, dog. No, I agree with you 100%. One, because I feel I'm, I'm about having good times, and I feel like I'm a really good hanger, and we can have a cool conversation. I don't know how good I am at de-escalating because I feel like in most of my, especially like with my friends, we play around a lot. I tend to
Yeah.
actually be an instigator, so I don't think I would be good in that position. You just can't give it to me. I instigate too much. If someone tells me, "Yo, f you," I'm gonna say "f you" back, and I want to know what's up, and I'll literally
Yeah.
say, "Come with it." Like that's a big no no. So in quarantine, that entire situation is like I'd like to think I'd survive, but I also know myself to know that throughout that movie, you can insert yourself in these situations and you can figure out where you stand
Yeah.
in those
Yeah.
situations. For me, it did a good job at relating to you as a human being.
Yeah.
Um, because there's some movies that feed off your fear, and there are some movies that they introduce it to you as, look, it's not that we're making this a tragic situation just for the sakes of it. This is a real thing that could really
Yeah.
happen
Yeah.
on some potential level, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, where do you stand in all of that chaos? What do you and who do you become?
Yeah.
And I think that those are good conversations to have when watching crazy movies like Quarantine.
I have to agree with you.
Yeah.
And what was it? Uh so for for them and me thinking about that, I would be like, why are we all in one group together if this thing is so contagious? Maybe we should kind of separate a little bit. I agreed with the guy. What's his name? I can't remember his name right now. It wasn't Bernard. It was
Social distancing.
he,
Social distancing. I thought, and I think I could be wrong, but I was under the impression that you had to have been exposed to their blood.
our
Um, so
saliva.
for, yeah, or saliva, right, to be infected. So I was under the impression that something as simple as, God forbid, let's say someone gets their head smashed in front of you
Yeah.
and their blood touches you, that technically counts because you're going to absorb it through your pores. Maybe it won't infect you as quickly, but you technically do count as infected. Um, but but
Okay.
also the other thing is like they don't really explain it to you, but there are people in there that do show signs that they are kind of already sickly. So now the question is that because maybe it doesn't matter, it's airborne and everyone's affected, or did off screen these rats get into everyone's apartment and start, messing with their things and touching their stuff, and maybe that's how they're getting sick already. Like there's these little nuanced details in there
Yeah.
that it's like you can't really know, but it's a really good way to really set the tension. Um,
I
they did.
honestly,
Go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say that the I get what we call him, the loose cannon guy who was like kind of being a little defiant and who was like, no, da da da. I I was very shocked at how fast he went out. I thought that because like normally when they introduce a character like that in a situation, that character drives the story and does
Mm,
something crazy
yeah,
or puts people in harm's way.
yeah.
And I love that it subverted my expectation. And I was like,
Yeah.
so he's not going to be a problem, like at all.
Yeah. I think it's neat because the villain and the inconvenient circumstances is quite literally the infection and the infected.
Yeah.
And when you add characters in like that are going to be a monkey wrench, I feel like Quarantine is a very plain, simple story. It's not
Hmm.
too complex, so you don't need all those moving parts.
Yeah.
So it's nice that they subverted your expectations because he could have very well been a villain that was going to keep inducing all this drama and imbalance he was going to risk their survival,
Yeah.
and then he did put a bullet in him. Yeah, yeah. It's
Like
cool. It's a realistic situation. And just so I'm clear, are we talking about the guy that? So if you don't know, they go upstairs, they look for the girl, they find the girl, and what they do is she's standing in like a closet with like these bloodshot eyes. She's already got blood on her face. Cop gets closer to her to give her the shot, and she lunges at the cop and bites starts
yeah.
literally ripping his neck and his
Yeah.
face off. So in that panic, I think what happens is I think they run out the room. They try to go downstairs, and when they're about to go down that last flight, the guys who died doing the biopsy and stuff
Hmm.
in the other room,
Hmm.
those infected start breaking out of that
Yeah.
room.
Yeah.
And this is the part that was like, oh, the mom, who tells her daughter to run,
Yeah.
even after her daughter bit her
Yeah.
face and stuff,
Yeah.
is pleading for her daughter to run, and she's cuffed to the sill of the not the
Yeah.
sill. She's cuffed to the staircase.
Focus. Yeah. Yeah.
So the last guy with the keys was the cop, who's currently dead or dying upstairs in the room.
Yeah.
So the reporter, the main character, I forget her name, but I love her in Dexter. Um,
Uh,
she,
that'd be Angela.
all right, there you go. She did. Oh,
She,
that's right. You had your cheat sheets. I keep forgetting. No, you're more responsible than me. I'm trying to go off the dome here, but it's just what happens is she goes down the flight of steps as these infected are breaking out, and she keeps saying, "I'm not going to leave her. I'm not going to leave her." And the lady's like, "Please don't leave me." And I'm like, "Oh, I know what's going to happen." And what happens? They end up having to leave her
yeah.
cuffed. They start running up the stairs, and the
But
infected come
she was
through.
already a lost cause anyway because her daughter bit her.
That's true.
She was
That's
already
also
lost
true.
cause. Like if they went with her, she went with them,
Yeah,
it would have been Sadie all over again.
that's
Which okay, that was wild to me because again, we're talking about quarantine.
Hmm.
When they're doing a check of everybody in the room, and you go to Sadie, and Sadie just looks scared. Like, okay. Then the whole thing happens with the guy getting
Yeah.
shot, the bullet, and all other stuff. And then you turn, and all of a sudden, like her fingers are bleeding. I'm like, wait, did she bite him? I'm like, you were just fine, Sadie.
She
You
chewed her fingers off.
were fine. What are you doing? So
Yeah, yeah, that's a serious thing.
yeah,
So, so, so at that point, right? So the infected come out. Lady literally gets tackled and starts getting eaten alive by one infected. They're running up the stairs. They go into the room, and that's when this guy, in his panic, he opens the window, he cuts the plastic cover, and he starts doing. He's like, hey, get us out of here! And there's a sniper that
Call of
just
Duty,
puts him. Oh my god!
Call of Duty.
They're on like the neighboring rooftop. They see him do this, and they shoot him in the head, and he's out for the count. And they're obviously panicked, and that's when you see like there's like 3 battalions of like fire departments outside, and they literally
Yeah,
have this whole thing closed down. And then right before we realize what's happening with Sadie, the gentleman, the landlord, is like, there is a way out. So everyone's like, so what's the plan? He goes like, um, there's a way in the basement that you can get into the sewers and we can escape through the sewers. And his wife is like, you need the key, you need the key. And right as he goes like, where's the key? I think you realize the guy's like, as that conversation happening, Sadie's got blood running down her face and the camera guy's looking at her and she looks up and her fingers are all chewed because she's slowly getting infected and not realizing that in her infected stupor, she's literally eating her fingers.
yeah,
So then after that, I think the landlord's about to be like where the keys are, and from behind him through the door, an infected guy had put him in a chokehold and in
yeah,
trying to bite him,
yeah. The
infects him
infected
with his own
CDC
blood.
guy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That
Which
scene's wild. It's a wild
so
scene.
wild because like
Mhm.
it's so sudden. Like you kind of like you forget that like you don't forget, but like like the CDC guys like I've been bitten. He's in the corner and they block it off. Like, okay, cool. Not strong enough to the door.
Yeah.
Nope, not glass.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking about when they were following the other originally when they were following Sadie and the professor into the apartment, and they used the rabbit ears TV, and on the TV the cop literally said the building's been evacuated. I was like,
Yeah. Left for dead. Left for dead in your own
oh,
apartment.
they done with y'all. They
Mm,
done with y'all.
it's a wrap.
And so me, I'm thinking, okay, they said that, and then later on, the sniper takes out the guy. I'm like, I wonder if anyone heard or saw
Mhm.
on the bottom, and it was like, but you said, you know,
um, I think at that point, one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie is when, landlord gets grabbed from through the door and everyone's panicking, everyone's running. It's the camera guy, the guy from the fire department, the wife of the landlord stays in the room because she's like, I can't leave him. She ends up getting attacked by Sadie, so
yeah,
they shut the door on them. And they're trying to run downstairs, and some random infected, I think, ends up tackling. Yeah, actually starts tackling the main character, the girl. Um, and she's freaking out. The cop goes and starts kicking the infected off. They're trying to get her off, and then Sadie comes out of nowhere and tackles him from the behind. Like it's a whole scuffle. The fireman and the cop, they manage to subdue these two infected. And as this is happening, you can hear the main character start hyperventilating and panicking, saying, I've
yeah,
been bitten," because
yeah,
she's just so psyched out of her mind, and that's a real thing.
yeah,
People will literally shut down in that moment, and they think the worst off the bat, and she's in this
yeah,
panic stupor. And I, with her, I was like nauseous from my anxiety sitting in the theater because I couldn't tell if she was like I'm telling you, in my theater was the bomb for that movie, because everyone's like at the edge of their seats trying to figure out, do they even make it out?
Yeah.
Um, so she's panicking and hyperventilating, saying that she's infected. The camera guy's trying to reassure her she's okay. And in that moment, in my theater room, there's like this lady, there was like a girl crying somewhere in the front row, and everyone's like panicked for these people because it's just so
Yeah.
immersive. Um, Finally, they calm down, and that's when they make their way downstairs. And there's
Yeah.
like this mad dash in the dark, no, and the light flashlight's going where she's looking for the keys in the lobby, and there's no light. That whole minute, I was
Let me
so
tell
sick.
you. Let me tell
I was
it
so sick.
just like ba-dum, 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 like wild,
Hmm.
wild. Um, so the 360 turn of the camera in the attic was a highlight. You you want to get up there, like you kind of knew it was coming, but it was
Yeah,
like, okay, when? Okay, but when? Okay, but when? Okay, but when?
yeah, and they milked it, but it was like the best form of like they were really trying to subvert you, but then they're like, never mind. Here's a dead
Yeah.
kid. Um, so that attic scene is actually interesting because if you listen to the commentary on the DVD,
Hmm.
um, they managed to escape. So fire the when they finally find the keys, fire department guy says, "Are you ready to go?" Like he's hyping everyone up. As soon as they run outside, infected dude tackles him. He's already chewing his
Yeah.
face off. Like the fire guy literally dies within like 30 seconds of leaving that room.
Yeah.
So now all the infected in that apartment are now congregating at the base, trying to find the camera guy and this news lady, and they start running upstairs. And the panic for me sets in when every time they look down, there's more infected just peeking over, trying to see
Yeah.
them, and they're sprinting up the stairs.
Yeah.
It's
And the
incredible.
cop was like,
Yeah, beeline. So then we finally get to this villa or this top level apartment. And the interesting thing is, in here, this is where the commentary dictates that um, at some point they're walking through this room, and it's like a lab that opens up,
yeah, yes.
and they're like they play. There's like a tape recording that starts playing, and it's like this weird garbled message and
Yeah.
stuff. And what happens is that's actually the guy who created this virus
Right.
talking about his notes, but they didn't what they felt that if they left all of that in there, this guy basically talking in his audio journal how he made the virus and like giving you like they didn't want people to really know that because they felt like if they left it unknown, it just made the movie much scarier, which I
Yeah,
agree.
I agree.
I agree.
100%.
And then at that point you realize, hey, this is where the rats came from. Because there's like these cages and there's rats in this room, and it's like, oh, this is where the infected rats came from. And then I think that's when like that top cell opens and they're panicked and they're waiting and nothing comes out. And when they do upstairs, they do that little 360 thing, and finally there's like this infected kid up there that just like comes out of nowhere, freaks you out. Um, on my first initial watch, and let me get your opinion on this actually. That last infected, the very last one.
Hmm.
Who do you think that is?
Oh my gosh. So I'm of two minds because, like, I was trying to figure out whose room this is. Like, because I was like, wait, is that the landlord's? You know? But I was like, no,
Hmm.
no. So I don't know. I don't know.
Um, I had I like to do digging. I don't know if you're familiar, but I there's a channel called Dead Meat, and they do a kill count. And it's hosted by James A. Janice, and he does this kill count thing where he literally gives you the whole entire story as he's going through how many kills there are in a movie. Which I 100% recommend, Lisa, if you have the time. The YouTube channel is called Dead Meat.
Dead
He
meat.
go
Okay.
he has all these different videos of quite literally a kill count, and he gives you the behind the scenes information and everything happening on screen. He really breaks down these movies for you in a way where now you have a different respect for them. Even the movies that were like horrible, you have a different respect for them. I remember when I went digging through trying to figure out the quarantine story after the movie because I was left with more questions than answers. Come to
Yeah.
find out, I can't remember. So anyone that does know this, forgive me. I might get this wrong, but right now, as I remember it, I could be wrong. That is the first official patient zero infected, who is a girl. That the guy after the guy was done creating the virus, apparently there's like these new paper scraps on the wall that talk about like there's this indigenous group of people that were living on an island and they were wiped out entirely by some mysterious virus. This guy apparently took a sample of whatever that virus was from this island, brought it back, started experimenting on it on these rats, saw what it was doing to rats, and then finally went and experimented on this lady. And she's the first patient zero of this virus, the first human host. And he left her shackled upstairs in his villa as he was trying to figure out how he was going to use this virus because he was going to be a bioterrorist. He was going
Yeah.
to unleash this virus to kill the world. So now what ends up happening is I think at some point throughout the movie, she must have escaped, and she's the reason why the rats get out because she had knocked things over and rats were escaping and chewing through walls, and that's how they were getting into people's apartments. It's how the dog got infected. By the way, if you don't like animal deaths, there's the dog is a German Shepherd who ends up getting infected. They end up killing the dog with a sledgehammer. If you forgot that, it's when they go in the elevator.
Yeah.
If you don't like animal deaths, and that's a very touchy thing for you, I warn you, that is the one animal death in this whole movie. You don't really see it because it happens. You see the fireman swing the hammer down, and the shot happens over his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see him connect, but the sound of the death is enough to upset people. So I do warn you, that is a thing in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this patient zero is just walking around upstairs and just in like lost in the dark and stuff. So that's why when they get scared from this other kid, because that's the thing they don't make clear. Like that's why it took me a while to figure out that tall, lanky, infected lady isn't the same thing we saw upstairs in the attic. That's actually a kid.
Right.
Yeah, that's just a kid that's also infected that's been locked upstairs in the attic.
Yeah.
So this lady's just walking around upstairs, and she looks lanky and creepy as all hell. Her skin's got this weird texture to it. You look at her silhouette in the shot of the darkness, and she already doesn't look right, let alone what she sounds like.
Yeah.
She already doesn't look right just from her silhouette.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is she's like walking around and she's touching stuff, and I think what happens is I can't remember who made the first initial sound, but she ends up figuring out that they're there, and she runs over and she beats the camera guy to death, and the camera flies off, and there's all these noises happening, and finally this is where they're setting up that famous poster shot that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Main character picks up camera, aims it, uses the night vision, and at some point she finds this lanky, disgusting infected hunched over the camera guy, like eating his face.
Yeah.
And I'm like any final girl, and this is the thing that bothers me, like every final girl couldn't just compose themselves because it's the heat of the moment. You're seeing something that you can't wrap your head around. And she literally lets out like a little whimper. And the way this thing stops chewing to like look at her, like panic and realize that something's in the room. For me, I was the first one in the theater that went, nope. Like I was the first one in the theater. I got up and like had to adjust. I was like,
done.
I couldn't do it. Yeah.
Done. Oh man. So before we close out, I want to ask you two questions.
Mm-hmm.
One, I mean, I know I told you I probably would have barricaded myself in the room, but if someone had survived, because we don't know how long before they opened and came in, if someone had survived, do you think they would have killed them on sight?
Yes. Yes, and that's a hard yes because I think the movie opens with the quarantine, with the special ops walking in, and I think I can't remember if that's the official opening crawl, but I remember at some point because if it was the theatrical version, I understand it. But there is an opening crawl where they bust open the apartment, they go inside, they see like the people dead where you last technically see them in the movie,
Yeah,
and they find the camera laying on the floor. And I 100% believe that if there was any survivors left, those guys were gonna go and just kill everybody. They had already lied on the news. They said that, hey, look, we evacuated the whole building. As
yeah,
far as they're concerned, those people are already dead, regardless.
yeah,
So they would have cleaned house. And honestly, I feel like it would have been the type of situation because they're trying to contain this thing, even if you're already dead, they were just gonna double tap. It
yeah,
wouldn't have mattered.
yeah. And
Mhm.
my other question is, what is your favorite found footage movie?
This is a little controversial because I have a lot of people that I know that absolutely abhor it, but my favorite found footage movie has always and forever will be Cloverfield. Um,
Ooh, that's a
because
good
Clover.
one.
Did you see? Have you seen
Yeah,
Cloverfield?
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
so for me, I went down the Cloverfield. I went down the Cloverfield rabbit hole when it first came out because it intrigued me, and that was my introduction to J.J. Abrams. Um, and I remember, you I know quarantine. I can't remember which one happened first, but I know that of all the scary or creepy things that I've seen,
Hmm.
nothing ever made me feel quite as hopeless and uncertain and scared as Cloverfield did. Not because the movie in itself was scary, but you as a person, you try to relate and immerse yourself, and you really start to ask some really good questions. Like earlier, I mentioned, like you then just realize who are you going to become when tragedy strikes. Like that's when people really get to prove and show, like they test their metal in that moment. Like, am I going to be someone who can comfort and unify people? Am I going to be someone who's going to be too unsure and leave those unbelievably hard decisions up to somebody else? Am I going to run and hide and every man for themselves? It's all these things that quite literally define the human condition under such
Yeah.
strenuous circumstances. And even then, like I love monster flicks and Cloverfield, regardless of like storyline or acting, which I didn't think any of that was actually
I I
horrible.
enjoyed the
I
movie. Like I don't even
loved it.
I don't even understand like the hate, like
I
any hate. It
don't.
was really good.
I
And then
don't.
10 Cloverfield Land, I thought was an awesome, cool, like deriv uh kind of derivative of it,
Mhm.
but like you know what I mean? Like it's in the same, but it's like while that horror is going on, this little bottle story horror is happening. So I thought that was
Yeah,
so
like the little branches of
yeah,
these little branch
yeah,
off stories of what's happening
yeah,
because of this cause. Now, I also like when I went to go watch it with my friends and my family. Um, And as the movie's going on, like I think, yeah, they had its lighthearted moments where you're
yeah,
laughing and giggling because they were being witty, whatever. That's cool. But realistically speaking, by the time we were done watching that movie on the drive home, we were all saying like, "Hey, like when this happened, like what would you have said or what would have done?" Like we were having such an existential conversation because of Cloverfield that it lasted a couple of months. Because at that point, you really think about it, like the movie really makes you wonder, like, who do I want to be in that situation
mhm,
versus realistically, who am I really like? Because again, there, for example, like if I give you a quick little tidbit, I like this guy really good at. He's a phenomenal. He's a outdoorsman phenom who
yeah,
all throughout his career and all throughout his life has said, I'm ready to take on a bear. If I ever run into a bear, like I think I know how to situate it. I have my gun. I'd be ready to pull it out. Long story short, the time comes where he goes hunting where the bears are an abnormally large size. This is a real story. And finally, the day comes where he realizes that they went to go pick up this deer that they had killed, and they hung it up in a tree, so they had to go back and pick it up. Long story short, they saw bear sign, which is bear poop. They ignored the bear poop. They went to go tie down, untie this deer or this elk they had hanging up in a tree, and they're taking a break, and in the break, he's like, I don't want to be that guy that needs to have his gun on him 24/7. I'm pretty sure if something happens, I'll just grab it if I need to. Instead of grabbing the gun and keeping it on him, he leaves it on his backpack. That's right by his leg.
No.
From one moment to the next, they are confronted by I think it would be wrong. It's a grizzly bear, but they refer to it as a Kodiak bear because they're unbelievably large.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
because they eat nothing but moose. And if I don't know if you know, moose are like stupid big too. So to eat
Yeah,
something that
yeah,
size, you have to be of the same size.
yeah.
So this bear came out and made this area its territory and starts to attack these guys in his group. And I'm telling you, his whole life told himself, I'd be ready to handle the situation. He wasn't ready to handle it. He didn't even grab his gun. They made it out fine. Everyone made it out alive. But the idea is he's like one of the hardest dudes out there. And even he said, of all the years of experience, when
Yeah.
push comes to shove, not everyone can take it.
Not everyone can take it.
Not everyone.
Woo! Oh, all right. All right. Well, that concludes this awesome. No. I would keep talking for another hour, but Instagram likes to cut
They cut you out. I know.
They cut you out. And I'm like, look, not even a warning. So I want to thank you for coming on. As always, awesome conversation. I love the extra layer of like digging into the story, the character's life, the thought process. Like you always get me thinking, and that's a good thing because thinking is good, guys. Thinking is good.
Yes, please think before you act. But even then, it's like again, it's those take. I love little details like that, and I'm a big nerd for sound design. In fact, that movie literally raw off the back with no music was phenomenal. And obviously, like psychologically, it's the human condition. Like what would happen?
Yeah.
What would you do? And I think when movies are able to really force that kind of existential conversation in your head, and you can have that talk with your friends,
Yeah.
I think it's good writing. It
Yeah.
really is good writing, and movies like that are taken for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I appreciate you having me on. I honestly do get so hyped up now. It's my third time
Yes,
on
I
here.
love
Yay!
it. I love it.
My third time on here, and it's just I have so much fun. And even then, like I feel like you kind of keep me on my toes because I know you love horror, and I'm the kind of person that like I like horror. You love horror, so I've been giving horror movies like a real chance and really diving into it, and I never realized.
Nice.
Well, yeah, because I never took into account like a lot of these horror movies or horror TV shows, the innuendos, and a lot of the messaging that goes behind telling these stories through fear, through the genre itself is it's its own art,
Yeah.
and I appreciate things like that.
Yes, me too. Me too.
Mhm.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and close this out here and tune in. Thank you again, Deadlights. Make sure you follow Deadlights Music.
Please.
Yes, I will be back here with another guest next week, and I'm gonna be offering another intro to screenwriting class in the very near future, maybe like February. So just put that out there for those interested.
Oh.
Yeah, right.
As always, honey, it's so good to talk to you. I love that we can bond over these conversations. I
Yes.
also now know that you will never camp. I understand that now. Never. And you'll never get my ass on the roller coaster.
Not voluntarily. Not voluntarily. Like if I go camping, it's by accident out of my
like on some lost shit.
Yeah, no, I've learned to say never. So I say I am actively avoiding it.
It's conscious at this point. Guys, take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of the Halloween season. And if I don't talk to you before the end of the year, have a happy holiday to you and
happy
yours.
holidays to you too.
All right.
And you'll be coming for the fourth time soon enough. So I think you are the only. I think you are my only guest who's been 3 times. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I think it's you and maybe Luke. I have some people in the UK that have come on a few times. So I think
so cool.
I think you are in the three group.
I'm a vet. I'm a Hot Take Tuesday vet. Yeah. Alrighty.